tidy up the place, so hum a merry tune.
Of the world unite, strength in numbers, we can get it right. One time.
We are a part of the rhythm nation.
With music by our side to break one now divide. Let's work together to improve our way of life. This is the test. No struggle, no progress. Lend a hand to help your brother do his best. Sing it up now.
Let's dance, let's shout. Shake your body down to the ground. Let's dance, let's shout. Shake your body down to the ground.
Let's dance, let's shout.
Sorry. Lift your head up, cause you're a star. Be strong, boy, know who you are. Papa said knock them out.
Yeah, I'm gonna knock them out.
Papa said knock them out. Come on.
Don't call it a comeback.
Yeah.
I've been here for years, rocking my peers, putting suckers in fear. I'm gonna take this itty bitty world by storm, and I'm just getting warm. Ha!
We're bringing Fluffy back. Yeah. The rubber penguins don't know how to act. Yeah.
Take him to the chorus.
Get your Fluffy on, shake your tail. Get your Fluffy on, watch yourself. Get your Fluffy on.
Getting started in this industry, what was that light bulb moment for you when you were like, ha, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life?
It was in 1930. I was listening to a radio station called KNX-FM, and I heard, instead of the usual call letters, da-da-da-da-da-da, I heard a song. And it was a beautiful a cappella song, 4-part harmony, and I was in my apartment over right by Church on the Way, overlooking the unemployment office there, and I heard these singers singing this 4-part beautiful harmony song, which I later found out who they were, and I said, that's what I want to do. I want to sing, like radio IDs or jingles, and I didn't even know a career like that existed. I was singing in church at that time. I was a pianist at the time as well, classically trained, and was traveling and playing. But I knew I didn't have the heart and the soul for concertizing. I'd get way, way, way too nervous. And I knew I had a heart for singing, and a year later I was doing the KNX-FM jingles. So be aware that the Lord hears the desires of your heart. Sometimes they're voiced and sometimes they're not, but that was the aha moment.
What about you, Melissa?
I was 7 and my mom took me to see The Sound of Music on stage, and after the show she said, what'd you think? And I go, I want to be there. I just knew. And then fast forward 10 years or so from that, and I was already doing tons of musical theater, and I finally got to play Liesl. And it was like the best part ever up until that point. I am 16, going on 17. It was great. So I always knew that I wanted to entertain in a sense. And being an actress for me was so neat because I came from a family where everybody, as I entered my early 20s, I called it, without my parents knowing, I called it like the plastic family. Like everybody was just like this all the time. We're all really happy, and on the outside were like cardboard cutouts. Underneath stuff was happening, and I really believed that we were that sort of plastic family, but I wasn't really allowed to have real feelings because I just had to be nice all the time. And so when I was acting, I felt like that's when I really felt like I was home. So I would get these like really emotional parts and just get into them, like Maria in West Side Story, and you killed my brother, you know.
There it is.
Yeah.
And then just being in the industry, I mean, when you think of the entertainment industry, it's this big thing. I mean, I come from Indiana, so for me it was like, I want to be in the entertainment industry. Okay, but how? And what do I want to do? And there's so much. So also facing rejection, like there's so much rejection. So how did you guys navigate those first few years of figuring out what exactly you wanted to do in the industry? And also, you know, sometimes when you figure out what you want to do, it's how do you move up and how do you get there?
Well, I would say that the rejection factor is much less on the other side of the camera than in front of the camera. I have experienced both, and I highly prefer being on the back side of the camera, the off-camera position.
That's right.
I think that to the rejection part of it probably comes more when I'm putting myself up for something that I'm not quite right for. And I think I learned really, really early on that if I was called to do something that wasn't in my, is it called wheelhouse, Michael? That I would refer it. I would refer the composer, the songwriter, the whoever, and say, I can sort of do that, but I'll tell you who could nail it. And that's so-and-so. And I think because of that, and I wasn't trying to put forth a servant's attitude. I just wanted it to be excellent. And if I didn't think I was the best person for the job, and I knew somebody else who would be, that was my casting heart. I had more of a heart for making sure that the project itself would be amazing and excellent. And I think in the long run, that has lasted, that has taken away the rejection factor, if you will, of what I experienced, and it has allowed me to put other people forth and forward to provide work for other people, and it always comes back to me in a positive way. Either the producer or the composer will say, "Oh, they were amazing. Thank you so much." I'm like, "Oh, all I did was, give you the right person for the job." But my own opinion is, if there's different opinions. Like an actor, they say, never say you can't do something. I agree with that. But in my case, rather than saying I could do something when I knew I wasn't the best at it, I would rather put somebody else in that position who I think would be correct in any way. That's how I avoid rejection. Except on-camera stuff, that's a tough world. That I think, they just look at you and they go, you're not right. And then Dustin Hoffman goes, I can be taller.
Yes.
I can be, I can be something else. That's hard on your psyche. But the Lord is your guide. He goes before you. And just learning to listen to His still small voice saying, I have something for you. You don't need to fret or worry or what they think of you. Just know what I think of you. It'll be okay.
I think that's really the key. That's the most important thing for me, is to remind myself that I am not my job. I am a child of God. That I am a daughter of a king. I'm a princess. So no matter what jobs come in or don't come in, things I'm really, really wanting and that I don't get, I have to remember that's not the end all be all. That's not why I'm actually in this business, to get the work. No, it's to let Christ shine through me. So one thing I do, that just because I've been doing this on the voiceover side for like 20 something years, people ask me like, oh, how did that audition go yesterday? And I'm like, which one? Wait, what? Because I forget them so fast. So that's what you do. For me, I just do it and forget it, and do it and forget it, and get on with my life. And if something comes in, great. That's really awesome. But that being said, I had a similar thing happen to what you're talking about, where someone wants you to do something, you're like, I'm not the right one for this. And it's happening right now where my husband's like, you're perfect for this. There's this big thing. And they're looking for someone to replace somebody, and I already know I'm not the person for it. And I don't know who is. I can just say, I know I'm not, because there's a certain thing that this character has to do, and I can kind of do it, but I've already done that route. I've already like played roles that I'm kind of right for, and it's okay, but at some point you're gonna get recast anyway. Animation, it's so hard. Like, if for some reason you're not cutting it, like even 2 years down the line, they'll replace you. I've replaced other people. Like, it sucks. The rejection's for real, you guys. It's awful. So if you can't take it to begin with, do not become an actor. It's so hard. Yes, have a life outside of this, for sure, because it's very tough.
And then how do you navigate your faith throughout your respective industries? Because I know with the music business and with TV and film, there are so many projects that probably come in that might not correlate to your core beliefs. So have you ever had to turn down a job, or has there been core moments where you're kind of just like, that doesn't really work for me?
Well, I've thought of two different instances. One instance was I was on a soap for 2 years, and I had to go into bed with somebody on this soap, and I was like, you know, what is the Christian community going to think? And I actually was in a small group at the time with Dallas Willard. I don't know if anybody here knows who Dallas Willard is or what. Anyway, I gave Dallas Willard my plight. I just told him the whole story. You know, I'm on this soap, you know, and this is what's happening. And he just looked at me and he said, whatever is true, whatever is lovely, if there's anything excellent or worthy of praise, think on these things. He gave me the verse in Philippians and said, don't do what you think the church wants you to do. Just be excellent. He didn't say, yeah, keep your clothes on or whatever. You're not naked anyway, I guess, but it's anyway. But that really, he gifted me with the non-churchy answer, which was, just be excellent. And it turned out that they had told me, the writers on the show had said, they brought me in 2 weeks after I was on this soap, and they said, you know, we know that your character is in her 20s, but we've decided to make her a virgin. I was like, thank you, God. No, that just doesn't happen in daytime television. I was like, wow. So, and I was engaged to be married by the time I was like in the bedroom scene, you know, and so supposed to be. So it was, you know, but that was like 2 years later, so it took a while. But so when I'm on session, my job isn't to preach, but my job is to be excellent. And that will attract like honey. That will attract people to what I do or what you do, is when you're excellent, and when you consider the relationship of every person you're working for as this is who the Lord died for. And you look at them with love, and they can't figure out why you're looking at them that way. And they're drawn to Randy Crenshaw, and they're drawn to other believers that I bring in there, and they don't even know why. But I know why they're drawn, because the Spirit of the Lord is loving on them through the people that are around them. So, sorry, long answer.
I'll be quick. I just found these two things, but the first one's hilarious. So I got a call. My agent said, "You're not gonna believe this. They don't even need you to audition. You just have a sexy voice, and they want you for this voice of this station, and it's going to be a 6-figure deal." And I'm like, what? I mean, yeah, it's like a year contract and the whole deal. And I'm like, oh my gosh, of course, yeah. And then she told me the name of what it was, and I was like, I've never heard of that. Is that like a cable station or something? And then the next time she mentioned it, oh yeah, you're going to start working on this day. I'm like, okay, wait, what is it again? And she said, it's Spice, like Spice Channel. I'm all, what? And I thought, gosh, is it cooking? Like, am I gonna learn some cooking tips because I'm not a really good cook. This is great, you know, I'm telling a friend of mine and she's like, I don't think that's cooking. So I asked, yeah, so I asked for a script and my agent's like, oh, you know, she thought the problem was that I wasn't getting enough money. And I'm like, I don't think I can do this. When she told me the script, I'm like, oh, okay, a whole different kind of herbs going on there. So I ended up turning it down, even though they offered me double.
Wow.
And it was a time I really could have used it, but it was amazing because at the same time I was up for the singing voice of Snow White, and I just thought, gosh, you know, if I get Snow White, how am I gonna, like, porn, Snow White. I would do Snow White, and I got that. Which that was pretty awesome.
The Lord gave you a choice, right there.
Yeah, I didn't really have a choice, it was just, you know, one of those things, you're like, oh, those moments that come in life and you're like, yeah, I mean, don't think I didn't consider it, I did, but it's just, you gotta, if something literally physically hurts you when you think about doing it, don't do it. That's my advice.
Yeah.
Amen.
And then just wrapping up, what would be your biggest piece of advice for our audience members or someone who wants to do what you're doing?
Know that you are a light, and that people are watching, and that even if you don't say, I'm a believer, I'm a Christian, or whatever, I think just like Edie says, they're gonna know something's different. And it's okay, and it's a good thing.
We are here for a very short time, and the relationships that we make are the relationships that will last. And the love that you pour out, that's been given to you, is the love that's going to last throughout eternity. I think if I look at everything I do through that lens, before every job, I just have a better time of it. And if you want to be doing this sort of work, I would just say, be prepared, because you're shot when it comes. You just want to be excellent. Do everything you can do, and then just leave the rest up to the Lord. But be ready and be excellent, and trust. I'm still working on that, the trust part, but just trust that the Lord, He's got you. He's got you.
So thank you guys so much for joining us.